So I think Hollywood has found its new pool of like based on true story things, and it is plot twist the internet. Hello, everybody. I'm Anaji, and this is FMV Review. And today we're going to be talking about the film At Zola. So, At Zola has an interesting premise, and basically the premise is that here's just the backstory for this is basically the plot of the movie for the most part. So, in 2015, in the early days of Twitter, there was this woman, Isaiah Zola, who was a stripper, and over a series of 148 tweets, she told this story of how she met this white chick. They went down to Tampa, Florida to go strip, and then from there, the weekend that they went on just went totally sideways, involving just craziness. I don't really want to spoil. I'll spoil some stuff later, but I'll spare you right now. But yeah, and these series of tweets caught the attention of some big celebrities. Like I think I heard Beyonce was following it, but there were some significant, especially black celebrities that were following the story. And now A24 picked it up as a movie. And yeah, it is interesting watching this film. A film so I would say one of the things that Hollywood struggles with is, and when it comes to depicting social media, Hollywood has a hard time depicting it. It's not the most visually interesting medium to depict, just showing like text bubbles or whatever, but this movie finds an interesting way to do it with the characters almost reading out like a monologue thing. And yeah, the way they use the technology, even though it's technology from 2015, it feels pretty relatable. I'm not gonna lie, there was a moment where I think they showed early Instagram and early Snapchat, and it was nostalgic to see the old versions of those apps that are just so proliferate, in our life now. Like I said, this movie is from A24. I thank God for A24, to be honest, because they are one of the few film companies that are making original films, and letting directors and just do their thing and not really have to worry about selling to a 4-quadrant audience, which is nothing really wrong with that. It's just that I don't want every movie to be like that. And I would say this movie reminded me of another one of their films, I believe, which is Spring Breakers. This feels like a more grounded, less surrealistic drug haze version of Spring Breakers. And I think this movie has a little bit more of a plot going on as well. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I know Florida is crazy, but Florida, when shot the right way, looks so beautiful. So I want to go down there at some point and visit. And this movie definitely had some image. When craziness wasn't happening and they let the beauty of Florida shine through, it definitely made me want to go there. I think this movie is pretty fast paced. It does not really waste a lot of time. It's only about an hour and a half, and I think that's for the best in certain ways, but there's other ways where I think that brisk time kind of hurts the film, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And yeah, the movie has some suspenseful thrills. I would definitely characterize this as a dark comedy crime thriller. And yeah, I think that balance of this crazy crime stuff happening with this kind of narrated perspective from the main character Zola, sort of giving her commentary on what is going on, that I'm pretty sure they just pulled it straight from the tweets. I'll even leave a link down into a video that I watched that basically read all 148 of Zola's tweets. So look down. There's either going to be a card here, Najee, or there's going to be something down in the description below. So be on the lookout if you want to kind of hear what the story was without having to actually read the tweets yourself. And I also want to shout out the director. I believe her name is Janixa Bravo. I saw her in this movie called Greengrass, and I think if this is her debut, this is a pretty impressive debut, taking a social media story and turning it into a pretty compelling little dark crime thriller. So I think she might be a director to be on the lookout for, in my opinion. This movie really lives by the fact that it has a pretty small cast of main characters, only about 4 main characters, but they have such an interesting dynamic with each other. Riley Keough, I think she's been building up her cred for quite a while in the indie film circuit, and she's been in some bigger blockbusters. She's definitely like a Steven Soderbergh staple at this point, and she's pretty solid as the character, I believe, Stacy, who gets Zola into these crazy situations. And Nicholas Braun, he's an actor that I've liked from the Sky High days. Yes, I saw Sky High in theaters, so I'll let you figure out how old I am when I say that. But yeah, it was a surprise to see him in this movie. I didn't know he was going to be here, and I think he does a really good job of playing this sort of I mean, if you were gonna use the word simp, I would say him. He's a simp, but I felt bad for him. Like he's not. They don't make it where he's not like a human character, and I liked him. But I really want to give a special shout out to two of the cast members. Not to say the other ones were bad, but I think there's two who stood out in particular. Taylor Page. Now I've seen Taylor Page before in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but I didn't think she really had a lot to do in that movie. But I think here as Zola, this might be the movie that gets more people to pay attention to her. Hopefully, if people see it, theaters are back open if you feel safe enough to go there. But yeah, the way she plays Zola as a fairly normal person who's put into this crazy situation, who very quickly adapts to the craziness. You get the feeling that like Zola's not some character without any like life experience. She's kind of been through a little bit of stuff. And she has a great sense of sort of like deadpan humor. There's a lot of laughs that come from this movie just from characters doing things around her and just her deadpan face of just not even acknowledging the craziness that they're doing because she almost is in a state of disbelief. And yeah, I really liked it, especially when she was sort of reading. Like we kind of get it in the movie where we're sort of hearing Zola's inner monologue. I don't even think it's an inner monologue. I think they even do it in a way where she is putting the story up on Twitter like while it is happening, something that mimics apparently the actual events that happen. But apparently she also put in work of learning how to strip and actually working at a strip club for about a month. And I think it does show in the brief scenes where she's doing stripping. Like I definitely had a moment where she's doing some physical things on the pole and I was going, oh, she's like trained. She's done this before because she's really good at this. So yeah, I'm going to give Taylor Page a shout out and I hope she gets some more work. And now I'm going to give my second shout out in the cast to Coleman Domingo. If I were to say anything, I think Coleman Domingo has been having a moment. He also was in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I would say my favorite performance of him so far has been in the special episode of Euphoria as Ali. But I would add this as another one. He plays this guy named, I believe, Z. And he does such an interesting thing where he plays Z to be this very like charming, laid back guy, kind of disarms people with his calmness. But man, when things are not going his way, he can become downright scary. And it was crazy to see Coleman Domingo swing between these two emotions, and his character definitely adds an element of like unpredictable danger into the film that I think helped really keep the film interesting. And I liked seeing him on screen interacting with characters because you never knew what side of him you were going to get necessarily. So yeah, but ultimately I'm going to get into what I think are some of the problems that hold this film back just a little bit. But before I do that, if you are digging this video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So let's get right into this. I don't really think they did a great job of building up the relationship between Zola and Stephanie to really make me believe that they had become like really good friends. They tried to shorthand it with a montage that I will say is like visually beautiful. I did love the way this movie looked, but I don't think it ultimately works because I think they needed to do more time to build them up as characters. And there was another device used in the film where the way the film is being told through Zola's tweets. She's the one we're really only getting her perspective. But there's an interesting thing that kind of happens part way through the movie where we quickly see the events from Stephanie's point of view. And apparently this might have mimicked something that happened in real life where Zola put out this story and then Stephanie, the crazy shit she basically talks about in these tweets, put something up on like a Reddit board or on her own Twitter thing that basically was like retelling the events that Zola had mentioned, but from like a totally skewed perspective. And I kind of almost wish they had used that more because it would have been interesting to kind of see the different perspectives, because even though Riley Keough's doing a good job, it really is Zola's movie. And there's a certain point where Stephanie kind of becomes an enigma. It kind of becomes hard to see where her character's coming from in certain situations. Which I thought was a little unfortunate. And this is not a criticism. This is something culturally, I just kind of noticed it. I'm always kind of looking for stuff like that when I'm watching a movie. I think there's an interesting cultural conversation to be had here about the way the character Stephanie, who is a white woman, is basically using like a black accent. She basically speaks in like what would be called like Ebonics or whatever. And I think it's a conversation worth having because I think, like, I'm someone who uses TikTok. TikTok's pretty funny. You know, I'm someone who grew up with Vine and even I miss that platform. But I would say an interesting thing that I'm noticing is a criticism kind of being levied against Gen Z, which I think is a little bit warranted, is the fact that Gen Z takes a lot of stuff. It appropriates a lot of black culture and it kind of gets dismissed with this sort of like, oh, it's Gen Z because these white kids are growing up on hip hop and black culture, so it's different when they use black slang. But it's kind of not. They still are appropriating black culture. I know you grew up with it and that's cool, but the fact that TikTok literally had it where a lot of the black creators went on strike, because you had it where various TikTok stars like a Charli D'Amelio or Addison Rae were becoming world famous for basically stealing trends that black creators had created. So I do think it's interesting watching this movie, and I think there's like an uneasy tension that is never really said in the movie, but you notice it in little moments with Zola when she's listening to Stephanie talk and her like black accent that she's using. That it's interesting the movie doesn't really make a comment necessarily about it, but that like it is offensive. And I do think we do need to have a conversation of like look, I'm someone from the black community. I don't totally have a problem with white people using like black slang. My problem with it is the fact that like we don't get credit for it, and then white people try to like sweep it under the rug. It's like, look, it's okay if you enjoy black culture, but you need to give it credit. And it is messed up that y'all become way more rich and famous off stuff that you don't create sometimes. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that in. And also I would say an actual criticism for the movie is that this movie just kind of ends. And if you know more about the actual story that happened, I don't know why they didn't just keep it going past a certain point, because past a certain point has a more like natural ending. This movie just kind of stops. And I thought that was a little awkward. Maybe this is something that the director is maybe a little bit inexperienced, but hey, I think hopefully she'll learn from this. And yeah, I won't just like cut the story off. I think it's an indie movie thing that happens too. I think I mentioned in The Killing of Two Lovers where it just kind of sort of stops. I'm not really a fan of endings like that. So with that, I'm going to say at Zola, if you're looking for an interesting glimpse into Hollywood mining the internet for stories, At Zola is not a bad start in terms of the fact that it is a solid dark comedy crime thriller, some pretty good performances and an interesting tone and some beautiful visuals, and had some pretty funny laughs. I've not quite been in situations quite like this, but I've been in situations that got crazy sometimes. So with that, I'm going to give Zola, or At Zola, a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, solid 8 out of 10. So I definitely recommend, if you're an A24 fan or you're looking for something a little interesting, give At Zola a look. So hey, if you've seen At Zola, leave a comment down below and let me know what you thought about it. I definitely think this is an interesting film, and I would love to kind of talk about it with some people. So yeah, with that, I'll talk to y'all later, and goodbye.